Hi guys. So I was going to continue to work through some of this packet and just post the videos on there so you guys can have them, and don't forget that they will be passing them out tomorrow at school when they're passing out the computer, so from 11:30 to 1:30. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that. I'm going to go ahead and put this up so you guys can see what we're looking at. All right, there we go. So don't mind all my extra stuff. I thought I would get us started here with this first problem. It tells us to look at the rectangle. What is the area of the shaded part of the rectangle? So again, I'm thinking back to my reference sheet and looking as I'm reading this for those clue words that tell us something inside the story. I see shaded, so remember I'm boxing it and I'm shading it because the area is the inside, don't forget, okay? So what is the area of the shaded part of the rectangle? Now, this is one that a lot of people really do get confused on because it's kind of a two-part type thing. So we need to find the area of both of our different measurements. So these ones go together, and then these ones go together. So I'm going to go over here and check my reference sheet, and I've got area of a rectangle is area equals length times width. So area equals length times width, okay? Now, this is for my outside one, then I'm going to plug in what I know, okay? I do not know area yet, but I know my length and my width, which is going to be 6 times 5, okay? Then I've drawn my picture. Well, they drew it for me, really. I wrote my formula, I plugged in what I knew, and now I'm going to solve. Area equals 30, but again, I'm looking back at my measurement and it's 30 feet. And don't forget, for area, we have to remember that squared. Area equals 30 feet squared. So this whole shaded part is 30 feet squared. But here's my problem. I have, it looks like a square in the middle of my rectangle, and they asked me for the shaded part of the rectangle. 30 feet is all of this inside, which means I've got to get rid of this middle part that's not shaded. So I see it's a square, so that means I have to have a different formula. I'm still finding area, so area of a square is side times side. So let's do that. Area equals side times side, okay? Now I'm going to plug in what I know, and that tells me that my side is 3 feet. Another way that I can tell that it's a square is because they're the same measurements. Remember, a square, all sides are congruent, so they're all going to have the same measurements. So area is going to equal 3 times 3. I've plugged in what I know. Now I'm going to go ahead and solve. Area equals 9. And again, I'm looking at my measurement, and it's feet. So 9 feet, and don't forget that squared. So here's what I found out. This whole big thing is 30 feet, okay? But then I also just found out that this little square right here is 9 feet. They're asking me for just the shaded part, which another way that I like to look at it as is this is your big old carpet, and you have to vacuum your carpet, but you have a table in the middle of your carpet. You can't vacuum on top of it, and so we have to take it out. Take out that measurement to see how much I'm vacuuming, which means when I'm taking them out, that means I'm going to take my 30 feet and again take out that 9 feet. So I'm subtracting first. Okay, I cannot take 9 from 0, so I'm going to borrow. You become a 2. This gives me 1, which gives me a 10. Okay, 10 minus 9 is 1. And then technically this is that happy 0 there, so 2 minus 0 gives me 2. And I can't forget 21 feet squared. Okay, so, and then we see that it's the same thing here. The difference is on your test, they'll either say feet squared or square feet. Okay? And again, take your time as you're watching this and working through it. And if you don't get the packet or anything like that, just draw it out and work with it, okay? All right, I'm gonna move on to my next one. Give me some space. Here we go. Oh no, I think I froze. Oh no, I didn't, just kidding. Okay, sorry. All right, the model shows Mr. Stark's yard with measurements in meters. Mr. Stark wants to put a fence around the shaded area. How many meters of fencing will he need? So again, as I'm reading, I'm looking at those clue words, and especially if you watched Miss Golly's videos, you know, she told you some of those keywords to look for. So it tells us he wants to put a fence around. These are some really big words, guys. 2 clue words that tell us we're looking for what? Around, okay? So around. We're looking for perimeter, okay? And again, they're looking for the shaded area. So I want to go ahead and look really quickly at this and see what my perimeter is. Here's the tricky part. If you look at this shape, is it a square? No. Is it a rectangle? No. So I really can't use one of those different formulas, but going off of my knowledge, especially if I wrote these down yesterday, perimeter is the distance around the figure. You've got to add all the sides. So guess what? This one's a little simpler because all I'm gonna do is add all the sides together. That's it. So I like to start with my biggest and go smallest just because it helps me, and I'm checking all my sides to make sure, do I have them down? So I'm seeing here I have a blank side. Here's the biggest thing. Just because a number is not there doesn't mean it doesn't belong there. We've done this problem before actually, and a lot of people forget to add that side there because they don't see the number there. So I'm looking at this side is congruent to this side. So that also means that this is going to be 20 meters. Don't forget it or you will mess it all up, okay? So again, I like to start from the beginning and I add all of mine together. 20 and 20, I know is 40, and I cross them out as I go so I don't overdo them. My next big one is 10, so that gives me 50, okay? And then I'll start putting some together to make the bigger ones. Like I know that 5 and 5 is obviously 10. That gives me 60, okay? And then I've got 6, but I'm thinking in my head, 2 and 2 is 4. 4 plus 6 is 10. So in total, I have 70 meters, okay? Now remember we talked about filling these in correctly? 70 meters, okay? That would mean this would be just a 0, and then we're bubbling them in just like we would on the test. It's a whole number, so you see it goes before the decimal, okay? All right. So I'm going to take a quick second. Let me stop the share. Give you guys a second to catch up on anything you need to catch up on. I'm going to pause this just for a quick second. I'll be back with the next few questions.